Okay, today we are working on comparing fractions. So go ahead and write that at the top of your notebook. All right, so let's start off with some easy ones, all right? It's easy when we take a look and the numerators are the same, okay? So what we take a look at, let's go ahead and look at, go ahead and write these fractions down in your notebook. 1/5, 1/2, 1/3. Okay? So if we think about a fifth, a half, and a third, we know as the denominator gets bigger, the pieces get smaller, right? Or as the denominator gets smaller, the pieces get bigger. So we're going to put these fractions in order from, let's do biggest to smallest. I would choose, since my number of pieces are all the same, my numerators are all 1, then I'm looking for the smallest size piece. Or I'm sorry, just put them in order, the biggest size piece, which is my half, right? Okay. I know my smallest size piece, if I were to break my whole into fifths, my fifth would be the smallest. So then my third would come in the middle, right? So that's when I got like numerators, the number of pieces, then I just need to compare the size of those pieces. Okay, so similarly to that, when we've got like denominators but different numerators, it's easy then too, okay? So let's go ahead and write these fractions. Okay, so we've got 2/10, 0/10, 6/10, 7/10, and 10/10, right? So we're taking a look here, the denominator is the same, so each size piece is the same. So to put them in order from biggest to smallest, we would just need to choose the largest number of pieces there is. So our biggest one would be 10/10, or that is equal to what, friends? 1 whole, right? And then obviously our smallest would be our 0/10. That's nothing, 0, right? And then our next biggest number, we got 7/10, 6/10. It's often helpful to cross out your list as you're going on. And then I've got my 2/10. Okay, so when the denominators are the same, we line them up according to their numerators, right? Okay, so then it's trickiest when we've got unlike denominators or unlike numerators, kind of like what we started with our math message. Okay, so I'm going to erase here. I hope that you have followed along with me and you've got those down. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to finish that before I erase. Alrighty, looks like we're ready to go. Okay, so friends, go ahead and write these fractions. Oops, I'm sorry, you just draw a line. I was writing down the wrong ones. Just draw a line, cross those out. Okay, and we are going to go from smallest to biggest on this. And if you remember in our math message, we're going to compare and think about them in terms of a half, asking ourselves whether it's bigger than or less than a half. Okay, so my smallest will be 0. my biggest will be 1. Okay? So halfway between 0 and 1 is 1/2. Okay? So halfway between, we've got 1/2. Or 6/12, right? So you guys have already noticed that 6/12 is equal to that. So I just have my number line though that's ready with 0, 1/2, and 1 to get myself started. You're absolutely right. 6/12 we would put on the number line right here, right? So let's think about 4/25. We ask ourselves, is that greater than or less than 1/2? Well, less than 1/2, right? What's half of 25? Half of 20 would be 10, right? Half of 5 would be 2.5. So half of 25 is 12.5. So this is much smaller than 1/2, right? I feel like this is probably about here. Since these are the same denominator, same size pieces, we've got 1/25 must be smaller than that, right? So I feel like that would be obviously very, very, very close to 0, just 1/25 more than 0, one small, small little piece. And then we've got 7/8 and 7/15 left. So let's think about the 8ths. If I had half of an 8, what would my fraction be? Yeah, 4/8, right? So is 7/8 greater than or less than 1/2? Greater than. It's 1/8 away from being a whole, right? So that's coming close to our whole. And then when we think about 7/15, what's half of 15? Yes. 7.5. So is 7/15 greater than or less than 1/2? Less than, just barely. Just a half of 1 left. So it's just barely. So when we put these in order then, we've got our 1/25, our 4/25. Then next came right before the half, we had our 7/15. Exactly half was our 6/12. And then last, almost a whole, just 1/8 from a whole, we've got our 7/8. Right? Okay, friends, we're going to go ahead and practice this a little bit more. Go ahead and say goodbye. Bye.